A shipment of 32 horses destined for Europe later in the afternoon arrive at Cape Town International Airport. On the second truck is the unbeaten 7-time winner GIMME A NOTHER. The trip from the Kenilworth quarantine station to Cape Town International has taken just under half an hour. Our licenses are scanned and we are given access. Security are waiting with documents needing to be completed and signed off. Stephanie is up ahead at the next gate leading to the front of the warehousing where the transfer of horses is taking place. We are not permitted to take our vehicles through, being requested to park in the front and go via a pedestrian entrance. We don our safety vests and boots and go through a further 2 security checkpoints. The last of the horses from the first truck are being transferred to their jet stalls and towed to a holding area. Those in the second truck, including GIMME A NOTHER, are content whilst eating on their hay nets. As the first truck, now empty, pulls out, the second truck draws up. It's carefully positioned. The horses offload and walk directly into their jet stalls. It makes the transfer quick, seemingly easy, but above all, safe. It's GIMME A NOTHER's turn and her 2 travel companions are the first to load. They are not unknown to each other, having travelled together in the truck. The 2 Arab mares take the outside berths, leaving the middle one for GIMME A NOTHER.
My name's Zach Carroll and I'm Global Ground Operations Manager and Head Groom for Intradco Cargo Services.
And it's Zach who now takes GIMME A NOTHER. We go around to the front and look in the groom's door. It's a happy sight.
My role in a shipment of horses like this is just to make sure everything goes smoothly and we load every horse safely and without any distress. So the most important thing is to make sure they're comfortable. So if the horses aren't too hot and they're not distressed, they stay calm, and you have a lot better flight. If they get too warm or too cold, this can affect them in many ways. If they get too sweaty, it's like a human being, you feel uncomfortable, start fidgeting. The most important thing for me, we keep the temperature right. After that, we make sure they stay hydrated, so we give them plenty of water. And the only feed they get during flight is hay. So we keep topping their hay nets up. We look after them, and just make sure they're happy.
You've worked with some really top race horses, haven't you?
Yeah. I've been very privileged to fly horses for a lot of the top trainers around the world and a lot of the top breeding horses. And I have flown a lot of nice race horses as well to the Middle East and Japan and places. It's lovely, we used to do charters from South Africa before the ban came in. So we used to bring horses to South Africa, and then on the return leg we would take horses out. So we were one of the last companies to actually do horses out of South Africa as well. So it was really nice to be part of the first 2 shipments that have happened.
It's just extremely exciting for everybody, endurance, polo, horse racing, show jumping alike. To finally have a direct route to Europe is just unimaginably fantastic for the industry, because Mauritius is great, but the reality is direct is the way to go. It saves on money, it saves on flights, stress, change of environment, all of the reasons you would want to go direct, and I think it opens up tremendous doors for us economically as well as for the industry in terms of competitiveness and platforming our amazing horses that we produce. So it's great.
Candice has been at Cape Town International Airport from early this morning.
The horses arrive in a vector-sealed truck directly from quarantine where they've been in lockdown for 17 days, actually a few more waiting for this flight. And then they get offloaded directly from the truck onto the safety ramp, onto the stalls, which you'll also see are covered with nets. So there's a permanent protection from vectors over that time period. And you put 3 horses generally onto each stall. In this case, we've got 32 horses, so there will be 1 open stall. And then once the horses are in, we try and plan it so that mares and geldings are together and the colts are either with geldings and separated from the mares for safety reasons. Once they are loaded, they're given a nice big fat bale of oat and lucerne so they can munch. They also travel with water and a bucket that they get given water every 2 hours or so. And then from here they get taken through to get weighed, and then once each stall, so it's called a jet stall, is weighed, they'll then be taken through to the apron, which is basically next to the runway, and then from there they get loaded onto the aircraft and off they go. The weight's important because when it comes to taking off safely and landing safely, an aircraft has to be what you call correctly balanced with trim. So there they need to figure out how they weigh the horses and place the horses safely onto the plane to give that aircraft the correct balance. This particular flight we're flying with KLM, which is awesome because it's a scheduled freighter into Johannesburg. So we just diverted this aircraft down to Cape Town and then they fly on to Europe. They will do a tech stop in Nairobi where they refuel and get some other freight, and otherwise it would really be unaffordable because a full charter you're talking double the price. So by doing what you call a diversion or a part charter, we make it more economical. Normally, if there was more space at quarantine, you could probably fit double the number of horses on, but we're limited to 32 spaces.
You asked me a question earlier about how long the flight is, and I think it's from here to Nairobi, it's 3 hours, and they refuel there. And then from there, it's another 12 hours to Amsterdam. So in total, it's about 15 hours, maybe an hour stopover. So yeah, in total 16 hours. That's good going.
So how many people go on the plane with the horses?
So normally the rule of thumb is 1 person per 9 horses in general. More than that isn't really necessary because for safety reasons you can't send more than 2 people into the back of the aircraft at a time in case there was an issue with oxygen and safety procedures. But your most important time is loading and offloading, and at that point, I mean, I've got at this stage about 9 handlers here, and on the other side there'll be about the same number, but actually on the aircraft there'll be 4 professional trained grooms flying with the horses.
And how do you find that horses actually cope with air travel?
Fantastically well. So if you think about it, what they always say, flying is much more safe than going on the road, right? So one thing people don't realize is that when you travel the horses in trucks and horse boxes, there's stop, start, left, right, hooting, speeding up, slowing down, up and down in the road, corrugations. Whereas the aircraft, again, probably the most stressful time is loading the horses on and off the aircraft because it's a bit noisy, and maybe takeoff and landing. But otherwise, they're in a beautifully aircraft environment. There's lots of ventilation, it's quiet, the plane flies, might, go a little left and right, maybe a bit of turbulence now and again, but actually it is much more friendly than going on a truck, to be completely honest. And as you can see on the jet stalls behind us, it's like a 3-berth horse box but without wheels. So it's a lovely protected environment. The horses can socialize with each other and it's protected from the outside. So they do extremely well. I must say, normally I think if we sedate 1 in 100 horses, it would be a lot with these kind of stalls. And I think for the trucking side, although we've got good quality trucks, I do think it is actually friendlier for the horses.
I think it's fantastic, from all the way from the quarantine center to the loading into the stores. So now it's going to be the waiting for the flight to come through. I think I'm happy with the whole process, cleanliness of the stores, the way the horses are being looked after, and of course with regards to disease control. During this time of traveling, we know that the most important disease is African horse sickness, and the vectors, which are the insects, the culucoides, they normally feed at night. So during this, we always want the horses to travel during the course of the day to make sure that we don't have incidences of insect bite that can then transport the parasite to the other side of the world. So I'm happy. Now we're just going to wait for the flight to come through, inspect the flight again, and just make sure everything proceeds as expected. We are now, I would say, 90% through. The quarantine period is quite long. Inspections, taking blood, checking temperatures on a daily basis. That was more of the whole process that needed stringent measures and everything. So I think the whole part of that is now done. We are waiting on the last step. Yeah, all the certification has been done, all the health certificate has been done. I have them in my hand. I'm just waiting for the whole process to come through and finish, and then I can hand the health certificates. Yeah.
It's 4:25 and the KLM cargo freighter is loaded and taxis out. We ask Candice what awaits the horses on their arrival in Amsterdam.
Well, luckily there's no quarantine. So they arrive and then there'll be a State Department veterinary officer there that will then just scan each horse and make sure that horse with that paperwork has arrived. And then once that horse has been approved, it can literally get on the truck and go. So I would say the process to clear the horses, if they don't have any obstructions with customs, can take between 3 and 4 hours to offload all of these horses, and they'll be on their way. Horses to the UK might take a day rest in Amsterdam, and then they'll go on from there. And then horses on to Dubai have to do a residency period, but it's not quarantine, it's literally just residency. So they go into a normal working environment and then off they go from there. So there's no further quarantine from here, which is fantastic.
32 horses in the care of Zach Carroll and 3 other professional grooms take off from Cape Town International, destined for Schiphol Airport in Amsterdam. It's an emotional moment bidding farewell, safe flight and onward travel. May the horses do South Africa proud.
So the proof is the first time that one of these horses wins a big race.
Yes.
That's what we're waiting for.
That is what we want, yes. And that would be great news for everyone in South Africa.